My dear friends, welcome to the channel. Our new dear friend, Gregory Foxx Jr. Brother Greg, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Glad to have you. Glad you got time from your busy schedule to come visit with us. For those in the audience who haven't checked out Greg on IMDb before, he's been a camera assistant, production assistant, location manager, director, writer. He's worked with props over at least 7 years in the film industry
Yeah,
and about 20 movies and TV shows. Do I have those numbers right?
20 plus. Yeah.
20 plus. Well, and the number's always growing, right?
Yeah, and I don't have everything on IMDb because I have to update it myself. So it's probably around 30, but that's a good number.
Oh, okay. Glad to learn more about you. And that's one of the things that I asked you and our previous interviewee, Jeff Gorsica, actor and short film creator, and him and his people have been working on a feature length together, and that should be coming out later this year. One of the reasons I'm interested in talking to y'all is because a lot of people know about movies, but they've never worked with movies. And so they might watch a behind the scenes expose on this movie or that movie, but there's a lot to it. It's kind of a way of life, isn't it?
Yeah, it's much less a job than it is a lifestyle. It's not just a job, it's an adventure. Film production runs a lot like a military operation. We go to the middle of nowhere with a bunch of trucks. We build small cities. We set up equipment. We play in them for 12 hours. We break them down. We move them someplace else and do it all again. So, in that sense, it's definitely more than people expect. I mean, construction, painters. I worked in a department called Greens one time where we dirted over paved streets. And then when the scene was done, we had to pick up all the dirt and put it back in the truck. So, it's just the whole world of blue collar and trade jobs that really make the fabric of the film industry that people never think about. Because once the actors and the directors and the writers have passed in the credits, people tune out. But there's a whole universe of other talented individuals there to help bring it all together.
Yeah, and you can have a top shelf director, a name actor, but unless they're doing some ultra minimalist thing with one camera, with the director and that one actor in a single room, somebody has to build all the rest of that that goes into it. So
Right.
they can't do it themselves. And of the folks that I'm familiar with that have talked about the lesser known or the unsung heroes of film production, be Bruce Campbell of B movie fame, but he usually talks about the not name actors who still make a living in doing what it is they do. But even those people can't get anywhere without folks making it happen. And like we just mentioned, you've got a CV of making things happen all over the place. I love your analogy about it's like a military operation
It
that
really is.
I hadn't thought of it that way before, but now that you say it, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. The director is your commanding officer, but the studio is the headquarters someplace else. They can always screw with everybody here, and you can't
Right.
go out to the field without these people giving you the money to go do it. That's all falling into place. Wow.
Transportation moves all the gear. Without transpo, shows shut down. Hair and makeup artists, think of something like The Walking Dead, where you got 60 walkers that need 6 hours in prosthetics and special effects makeup before they can even just go hang out and wait to be called. And those are really the unsung heroes. There's a lot of people and a lot of departments involved that have career paths that, especially when I talk to younger people who say they want to get into the film industry, oh, well, what are you interested? Well, I like to write, I don't want to direct. Okay, but there's a ton of other stuff that can get you in the door. So it's always interesting. It's always good to think about it in that way for me, because you realize you can't do it alone. Like, no soldier goes out and holds a post by his lonesome. It takes a team of communication specialists, facility specialists, and all those things really come into play into making films.
So, what is it that got you into working on videos, films in the first place? What hooked you to want to do that with your life?
You're gonna laugh, but when I was a kid, I've always known I wanted to do this. It just took me years to actually find an end. But when I was a kid, I saw Indiana Jones and I wanted to be an archaeologist. I saw Jacques Cousteau specials and I wanted to be a marine biologist. I saw Magnum PI, I wanted to be a private investigator. And then the reality hit me. There's no way in hell you're going to be all that. But what it did is it brought me to the idea of being a storyteller. Because as a storyteller, you get to live vicariously in those moments and you can kind of use your intellectual curiosity to kind of explore what's out there for you, explore what your interests are. But then you can sit and create your own little playworld. I was a kid that was grounded a lot. Okay. And back in the day when I was grounded, there was only maybe one TV in the house. There was no TV in your room. Nintendo and all that good stuff came along later, but I had lots of books, and books were kind of my introduction to the creative world. And I'm like, if I can sit here and read it, I can write it as well. And that got me into writing. Eventually, I found the medium of film because before I was just doing like flip books. I would go get the super fat deck of, I guess nowadays you call them post-it notes, and just draw one frame on each one and then make little flip books. And in middle school, I discovered the AV Club. And from that point, it was a wrap. I've always had a vivid imagination and kind of lived in my own thoughts. So writing them down became therapy. And that therapy led me to the film world. But I've always known I've wanted to do it. I actually went to college in California and tried to study some classes, ended up in LA in like 2001. Then that writer strike happened, and that like ended scripted TV for a long time. So I had to get on with the rest of my life. And then finally at 40, I was in Orlando working in commercial real estate asset management. And I told my wife, I'm going to hate myself if I don't give it one more chance. She said, you want to move back to LA? I was like, no. And Atlanta was an option and was nearby. So we came here with a 5-year plan to see if we could find some way for me to get in. And it happened for me. I've been working ever since. I took Georgia Film Academy class at what used to be Pinewood Studios. It's Trillic now. Made a lot of networks there, met a lot of good people, had an internship, a 60-day internship on Finding Steve McQueen. Forrest Whitaker, William Kirshner, Travis Fimmel, and producer. He asked me if I wanted to get hired on and finish the show with him, and I did. That was my first job.
That's awesome. So when it comes to film, you're a late bloomer as far as like actually working
Yes.
directly with the
Yes.
productions of it. Okay.
Absolutely. LA is a hard in to get in LA because it's so filled with generations of network and those become tough to penetrate. But Atlanta's a really welcoming film community. It skews younger. There's a lot of opportunities, especially with the time that I got here. Taking that path through the Georgia Film Academy, I was able to meet the right people to get me on and take advantage of it. So I gave up the real estate thing, let my license lapse, and this is all I've been doing since.
That's really neat. So, one, you're a living example of don't give up on what it is you're the most passionate about. Do something with it because you're right. That regret thing, you only have a finite amount of time and you don't know when that clock sounds. So, you better do something with it, whether you're doing it on the side as a hobby or whether you're dedicating yourself to it full time. Folks in the audience, yeah, that's you. Pay attention to this. If this applies
It's
to
never
you,
too late.
yeah, make a plan. So if you don't mind me asking before we go on to more film related questions, between 2001 and when you turned 40, what all were you doing in that time? You said you did some real estate. Was it all
Yeah,
real estate?
well, no, because when I was in LA, I was supposed to have an in with this guy to get a internship. It turns out that that was just a lot of talk. So I went to work as a bouncer at a strip club, the Jet Strip in Lenox on Hawthorne.
Oh,
And
it's memorable,
and
huh?
yeah, it was bad, but it actually there I was able to meet some people in the industry. Michael Clark Duncan used to come in all the time, and he's a big dude. I'm like 6'3", probably 325, 330. And he used to come in. I would see him at the door, and I always used to because his story was super interesting. He used to be like dig ditches in Chicago before somebody found him, asked him to be a security guard on movie sets. I think he did Fresh Prince, and that's how he got into the industry. And he used to always tell me, "Don't give up, don't ever give up." And like for straight from John Coffey's mouth. So I had to do more than I was doing as far as income. So I moved back to Florida and our family business is kind of real estate there. So I fell in where I fit in.